Have you ever experienced a day where you wake up feeling more drained than when you went to bed? It's not because you've been working too hard or because life is simply too much. No, it's something more subtle, something quietly persistent. It's the energy drain that's been happening to you without your full awareness. You're not just tired, you're being drained. We all have experienced it at some point. Your giving and giving thinking is just part of being human, part of showing love, being a good friend, or being a reliable colleague. But as you continue to give without stopping to check in with yourself, you begin to feel like something is slowly leaking out of you. A little bit here, a little bit there. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you explain yourself to someone who refuses to listen. Every time you absorb someone else's emotional chaos just to keep the peace. It doesn't seem like much. After all, these are the things we're told to do. We're taught that love means sacrifice, that kindness means putting others first, that being needed is the ultimate validation of our worth. But here's the catch. This isn't love. This isn't kindness. This is energy theft. And what's even worse, you've been conditioned to hand it over without question. This is what's happening to you, and it's happening every day. You may not even realize it, but your life force is being treated like a resource, constantly mined and used up by others. And you, the giver, you're simply left running on fumes, unsure why you feel so empty, so drained, so invisible. But here's the truth. You don't have to keep leaking your energy. You can stop the drain. And today I'm going to show you how. The real question is, why do we let it happen? Why do we let others take, and leave us with nothing? Why do we allow the world to treat us as though our energy is just an infinite supply ready to be drained at any moment? It's not because we're weak. It's because we've been trained to believe that this is normal. We've been conditioned to equate our value with our usefulness, to confuse self-sacrifice with love, and to confuse compliance with connection. But none of this is your fault. You weren't born to be drained. You were born to be whole, to be alive, to have energy that is fully yours, to give if and when you choose. So let's take this journey together. Let's break down what's really happening behind the scenes and what you can do to protect your energy moving forward. Stay with me. This is going to change everything. You know the feeling, right? That nagging exhaustion that doesn't quite make sense. You've slept well, you've eaten healthy, and yet something feels off. You're functioning on autopilot, going through the motions, but you can't shake the feeling that something is draining your energy. Something invisible but unmistakable. Let's break it down. You're not just tired because of your job. You're not tired because life is inherently exhausting. You're tired because there's an unseen force at work, the invisible vampires that are stealing your life force piece by piece. These vampires aren't just toxic people. They're not even just people at all. It's the systems you're in, the cultural expectations, the emotional contracts you never signed, and the constant demands of your time and energy. Every time you say yes, when you want to say no, you leak energy. Every time you give an explanation to someone who refuses to understand you, you lose a piece of yourself. Every time you show up to fix someone else's chaos, you're expending precious energy that you could be using to nurture your own soul. It's not just personal relationships. These energy drains are everywhere. Workplace demands. The endless tasks, the unscheduled overtime, the urgent requests that aren't really urgent. You're expected to be available at all hours, to always say yes, and to take on more and more, even when you're already at capacity. Cultural expectations. The societal pressure to always be productive, always on the go, always appearing busy. You're expected to hustle, to achieve, to be constantly moving forward. But in this grind, where do you find the space to just be? Where is the time to rest, to recharge, to reconnect with yourself? Emotional labor. This is a huge one. Emotional labor is the invisible work we do for others, listening to their problems, comforting them when they're upset, offering advice, holding their feelings while managing our own. This kind of emotional support doesn't always get recognized, but it drains you more than you realize. You can't see these energy vampires because they don't have fangs or glowing eyes. They don't look like villains, but their effects are just as toxic. They wear the mask of normality, necessity, and duty. But here's the kicker: you've been conditioned to believe you need to give. You've been taught that your value lies in your ability to be needed, to be the one who sacrifices, to be the one who fixes things for others. Here's the thing. Energy drain doesn't always look like exhaustion. It doesn't always feel like collapse or burnout. In fact, energy theft is often so subtle that it sneaks up on you in the form of quiet erosion. It doesn't look like destruction. It looks like being helpful, being reliable, being the one who's always there. It's a gradual thing. It's not like an all-out robbery, it's more like a slow leak. At first, you don't even notice. But then little by little, you start to feel hollow. And this is the scariest part. Your presence, your emotional labor, your attention, your availability has become a commodity. People don't value you for who you are. They value you for what you do for them. They value your predictability, your compliance, your ability to keep things together. You're not being celebrated for your essence, you're being used for your function. And the longer you stay in this role, the more invisible you become. The truth is your energy is precious. It's more valuable than you know. But here's the problem. Most people don't respect energy that isn't theirs. They don't recognize the effort it takes to show up and be present. They don't see the emotional toll it takes to keep everything running smoothly. Instead, they take it for granted because it's always been there. The real question is, why have we allowed this? Why do we accept being drained without noticing the effects? The answer is simple. We've been conditioned to think that we have to be constantly giving, constantly helping, constantly performing to be worthy of love and appreciation. We've been trained to think that our worth is tied to how much we give and how little we take. So what can you do about it? The first step in protecting your energy is simply becoming aware of how and where it's being drained. Start by asking yourself, where do I feel most drained? What relationships leave me feeling empty instead of energized? What situations or environments am I in that make me feel like I'm performing rather than just being? Once you start identifying these drains, you can begin the process of setting boundaries to protect yourself. But awareness is key. If you don't see the drain, you won't be able to stop it. A simple action to take today: say no when you feel your energy slipping away. Stop overfunctioning. Stop overgiving. Say no when you feel yourself bending under pressure, when you feel the drain. The more you practice this, the more you'll protect your energy. And trust me, the world won't fall apart. You'll just stop leaking. And when you stop leaking, you can start filling yourself up again. Let's take a closer look at something we've all been conditioned to believe, that being needed equals being loved. For as long as we can remember, society has taught us that love is about sacrifice, about being the person others can rely on at all costs. The more you give, the more you're loved, right? But here's the catch. This isn't love, this is dependency disguised as love. Let's pause for a moment and think about this. How many times have you been the person who stays late at work, picks up the phone when someone calls, or does someone else's work just to keep the peace? How often have you apologized when you didn't even do anything wrong, just to avoid conflict or to make someone feel better? This is where the trap begins. You've been trained to believe that your value is directly tied to how much you give. But in doing so, you've trained others to rely on you, not for the real you, but for the useful you. Let's break it down. When you give and give without considering your own needs, you're not really loving others. You're performing for them. And what happens when you perform? You become an act. You no longer exist as a whole person with needs, desires, and boundaries. You exist as a role to be played when others need you. But this isn't real love. Real love isn't about how much you give. It's about being seen for who you are, not just for what you can do. And if you're only seen for your ability to sacrifice or perform, that's not a loving relationship. That's a transaction. Here's a hard truth. You were never born to be needed at the expense of your own well-being. But that's exactly what has been happening. We've been conditioned to believe that the more we give, the more we are loved. So we pour our energy into people, places, and things that drain us. And eventually we lose touch with who we really are, what we really need, and what we truly desire. If you're constantly giving without regard to your own needs, you're not showing love to others. You're showing them how to take from you. You're teaching them that your value is in your usefulness. And while that may seem like a noble thing at first, the truth is, it's not sustainable. True love and genuine connection come from mutual respect and respect for one another's boundaries. When you start setting boundaries, real boundaries, not the ones that make you feel guilty, people will start to see you for who you really are. They'll stop seeing you as just a source of support and start seeing you as a person who has needs too. And here's the most powerful part. The people who truly care about you will respect those boundaries. They won't try to guilt trip you. They won't try to manipulate you. They will see your boundaries as a sign of strength, not weakness. They'll know that the real value of a relationship isn't in how much you can sacrifice, but in how much you can both give freely without expectation. Now let's dive into a very uncomfortable truth. Access without consent is control. Think about it for a second. When people take from you, emotionally, physically, or mentally, without asking for your permission, they're not loving you. They're using you. When someone assumes that you'll always be there for them, that you'll always say yes, or that you'll always sacrifice for their happiness or comfort, they are taking from you. They don't want you, the person with dreams, desires, and boundaries. They want access to your energy. They want to feed off your resources. And they've learned that as long as you comply, they don't have to give anything back. You've become a tool for their comfort, not a partner in a mutual relationship. So how do you know if this is happening to you? Start by asking yourself, how do I feel after interacting with this person or group? If you feel drained, exhausted, or hollow after spending time with them, that's a red flag. Do I feel like I'm only valued when I'm helping or giving? If your self-worth is tied to what you can provide rather than who you are, that's a sign of a transactional relationship. Recognize these patterns. Once you do, you can start taking back control. You don't have to keep playing the role of the giver to be loved. You can demand respect. You can set boundaries. You can say no without guilt. You can reclaim your energy, and in doing so, you'll find that the people who truly care about you will respect those boundaries. The ones who don't, well, they weren't truly there for you in the first place. At the end of the day, it's crucial to realize that being needed isn't the same as being loved. Being loved means that someone cherishes you for who you are, not for what you can give them. Love is reciprocal. It's not one-sided. It doesn't drain you. It fills you up. When you stop allowing yourself to be needed at the cost of your own energy, you create space for real love. And that's the kind of love that doesn't require sacrifice. It doesn't require you to disappear in order to be worthy. It simply asks that you be yourself. If you've ever tried setting boundaries with someone, you might have experienced a sense of discomfort. You know that awkward feeling where your decision to protect your energy feels like you're doing something wrong. They might react with anger, confusion, or even guilt, trip you, making you feel like you're betraying them. The truth is, they aren't mad at you. They're mad at the disruption to their supply of your energy. It's not easy to set boundaries, especially with people who are used to your constant availability. You've trained them over time to expect your presence, your attention, and your emotional labor. So when you begin to pull back, it often feels like you're breaking a contract one you didn't even know you signed in the first place. Let's say you've been the one who always steps up, whether it's offering a helping hand at work, giving emotional support to friends, or being the first person to offer comfort when someone is upset. You've gotten used to this role. It feels almost like second nature. But when you start setting boundaries, when you start saying no, the reactions from others can be jarring. You've changed. You used to always be here for me. You don't care anymore. These responses are not about you, though. They're about the shift in the dynamics of the relationship. People who relied on you for their emotional or physical comfort now feel unsettled. They feel that they're losing something that they've grown used to, and it triggers fear. The truth: you've not changed. You've simply stopped performing, and that's what feels like betrayal to them. Here's why setting boundaries feels like betrayal. It's because most people only knew you through your willingness to overextend yourself. They never really knew who you were underneath the role of the helper, the fixer, or the reliable one. They didn't value you for your essence. They valued you for your predictability, your availability, and your willingness to sacrifice. When you start to pull back, you're pulling away the only thing they've ever seen in you, the version of you that exists to serve their needs. The emotional manipulation can be subtle. You might hear things like, "You're being selfish," or "What happened to the old you?" But here's the hard truth. Their discomfort isn't your problem. Their need to feed off your energy isn't your responsibility. It's time to stop playing the role they've cast you in and start living as the person you really are. Overgiving isn't just about making sacrifices. It's about losing yourself in the process. When you give without setting limits, you end up in a cycle where you're constantly being pulled in different directions, losing more and more of yourself with each demand. The sad truth is, you begin to equate love and acceptance with how much you can give or how well you can serve others. And that's how you end up in toxic relationships where your boundaries are ignored and your energy is drained. You might feel like setting boundaries is selfish. You might feel like you're abandoning people. But the truth is, boundaries are essential for your own survival. They protect your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Think about it like this. You're a cup, and every time you give your time, energy, or emotional support to someone, you're pouring something out of your cup. If you keep giving without refilling, eventually your cup will run dry. And when it's empty, you have nothing left to give. Setting boundaries allows you to refill your cup so that when you do give, it's from a place of abundance, not depletion. If you continue overgiving without any boundaries, you'll end up exhausted, resentful, and lost. You'll wonder why you feel so empty, why you feel so invisible, even though you're constantly helping everyone around you. And the answer is simple. You've been giving from an empty cup. Learning to say no is one of the most freeing acts of self-love you can practice. It's not about rejecting people. It's about rejecting the expectation that you must be available 24/7, that you must always give, that you must always perform for others. When you start saying no, you'll notice something incredible happening. You'll start to feel more authentic. You'll begin to feel seen for who you really are, not just for what you do for others. And most importantly, you'll start to reclaim your energy. Boundaries are not about walls. They're about clarity. They're not about being rude or dismissive. They're about honoring yourself and your needs. By setting boundaries, you teach people to respect you, not just for what you give, but for who you are. It's not about rejecting love. It's about rejecting dependency. You are more than your ability to perform. You are a whole person with needs, dreams, and desires. In a world that thrives on noise interruptions and constant communication, silence has become one of the most powerful and misunderstood tools at your disposal. We've been taught that silence is awkward, uncomfortable, and that staying silent is a sign of weakness or avoidance. But the reality is that silence isn't just the absence of sound. It's a message, and it's one that can change everything. When you begin to set boundaries and protect your energy, one of the most profound shifts you'll notice is the power that comes with not responding. It's not just about not answering texts or not picking up the phone. It's about not engaging in things that no longer serve you, things that drain you, or things that pull you into unnecessary drama. Here's the secret: silence is not a void. It's a statement, a message to the world that you are no longer participating in a cycle that doesn't honor you. You are no longer part of the chaos, the drama, the manipulation. When you refuse to engage, you're showing that you can't be controlled by the need for constant validation, constant approval, or constant noise. Think about how often you feel pressured to respond immediately to messages, emails, or phone calls. We've been trained to believe that being available at all times is a sign of reliability, professionalism, or even love. But in reality, instant response culture is a form of manipulation. It keeps you on your toes, constantly reacting, constantly available to others, but never available to yourself. When you stop responding instantly, you take back control. You dictate the terms, you decide when to engage, and more importantly, you decide when to step away. Let's break it down. Ignoring a text isn't a sign that you're rude or avoiding. It's a conscious decision to protect your peace and prioritize your own needs. Not answering the phone isn't about being disrespectful. It's about choosing your time over someone else's demands on it. In fact, when you stop responding on autopilot, something incredible happens. You start to hear yourself again. You stop being reactive and you start being intentional. You become the observer instead of the performer. You begin to recognize when someone is pulling you into their emotional chaos and you choose not to engage. It's easy to fall into the trap of feeling like you need to explain yourself. We've all been there. You set a boundary, and then the guilt starts creeping in. You start to wonder if you should justify your actions, offer an explanation, or make sure the other person understands why you can't keep doing what they expect. But here's the thing. You don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace over chaos. You don't owe anyone a defense for saying no. Setting a boundary is not a crime. It's a declaration of self-respect. When you give up the need to explain or justify your decisions, you unlock a new level of clarity. You begin to trust your own instincts. You no longer feel the need to please people at the cost of your own well-being. And this is where the real freedom begins, in the ability to stand firm in your choices without the need for validation or understanding from others. Silence is not avoidance. It's a reclamation. Let's address a common misconception. Silence isn't avoidance. People often think that by not responding, by not reacting, you're somehow ignoring the situation or hiding from it. But in reality, silence is often the strongest response you can give. You're not avoiding the problem, you're choosing not to feed into it. You're stepping back, creating space, and saying, I will not allow this situation to drain me any longer. When you choose silence, you choose to reclaim your energy, to stop participating in toxic dynamics, and to recenter yourself. You begin to realize that not every conversation requires a response. Not every conflict requires your involvement. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is step away, take a deep breath, and preserve your peace. Here's where things get interesting. The more you practice silence, the more you'll find that it becomes a shield, a protective layer that keeps you from being pulled into the emotional drama of others. Silence isn't passive, it's an active choice to preserve yourself. It's not just about keeping quiet in tense situations, it's about creating space between yourself and the noise between yourself and the expectations of others. And in that space, you find your power. You'll notice how much more present you become in your own life. You'll start to recognize that you don't need to justify your decisions, explain your boundaries, or make people understand your choices. This is about reclaiming your energy and protecting your peace, and the more you practice, the stronger you'll become in standing firm in your own truth. Let's be clear, not every battle is yours to fight. Not every person's emotional outburst requires your input. Not every argument demands your participation. By choosing not to engage in drama or toxic dynamics, you're not just protecting your energy, you're making a statement. You're showing that you will no longer feed into the chaos. You will no longer let others drain you for their benefit. So the next time you feel that pull to respond, to justify, to explain, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Am I participating because I want to or because I've been conditioned to? What happens if I don't engage? And when you choose not to engage, remember this: silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. In that stillness, in that quiet refusal to be baited, lies the most powerful form of self-respect you can give yourself. Let's face it, we've been taught to treat our energy like it's infinite, when in reality it's far more precious than we realize. We go through life constantly giving, constantly showing up, and constantly depleting ourselves to meet the needs of others, whether it's in relationships, at work, or in our daily interactions. But here's the truth that needs to be said loud and clear. Your energy is not a free resource. It's not something that should be handed out to everyone who asks for it, without regard to whether it's a fair exchange. In fact, you need to treat your energy the same way you would treat something precious like gold. You don't just give it away for free. You don't just throw it around. You guard it, you preserve it, and you spend it where it truly counts. Imagine your energy as a bank account. Every time you give, every time you go the extra mile for someone else, you're withdrawing from your account. And just like with money, if you keep making withdrawals without replenishing your balance, you'll end up bankrupt. Think about all the ways you give your energy away. To toxic people, the people who take but never give. The ones who always need something from you but don't care about your needs. To unappreciative situations. The things you do out of obligation or guilt, where you feel unappreciated, unseen, or undervalued. To your own overcommitments, the constant saying yes to things you don't have time or energy for, simply to avoid disappointing others. When you keep giving without replenishing, you slowly begin to drain yourself. The real tragedy here is that over time, you become so used to giving and performing that you forget how to stop. You forget that you have a choice in where you spend your energy. Here's the uncomfortable truth. We live in a world that often profits from your depletion. From the productivity culture that celebrates working around the clock to the consumerism that constantly distracts you, there are systems set up to keep you giving without ever asking for your input on whether that's what you really want. Think about it. Social media. It thrives on your attention. Every comment, every scroll is an emotional withdrawal. Social platforms have learned how to keep you hooked, how to keep your attention, and how to keep you constantly engaged because your energy is their profit. Workplaces. They expect more from you every year, even when you're already maxed out. Your time and effort are treated as free commodities to be exploited for the company's benefit with little regard for your well-being. The truth is, the more you overgive, the more you make yourself available to these systems that only benefit from your exhaustion. When you keep running on empty, you are allowing external forces to profit from your depletion. And that's why it's so important to take back control. You must realize that replenishing your energy is not a luxury, it's a necessity. Your energy is the foundation of everything you do. Your work, your relationships, your creativity, your happiness. Without it, you have nothing. But replenishment isn't just about taking breaks. It's about actively choosing what to put back into your cup. It's about nourishing yourself with the things that feed your soul, not just your to-do list. What fills your cup? Spending time with people who respect your boundaries and uplift you. Engaging in activities that make you feel at peace, whether it's reading, walking in nature, or practicing mindfulness. Doing things you enjoy that aren't tied to any obligation or performance. The more you focus on replenishing and nurturing yourself, the more you'll have to give when the time is right. You'll start giving from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. It's time to take stock of your energy and spend it wisely. Think of it as gold every moment you invest in something. Ask yourself, is this giving me something in return? Does this bring me peace, joy, or fulfillment? Or am I just losing energy without gaining anything meaningful? Start saying no when something doesn't align with your values. Start saying yes to things that bring you true joy, growth, and connection. Remember, your energy is sacred. Protect it, replenish it. Spend it only on things that matter to you. One of the hardest things we face in life is the roles that others assign to us. These roles, whether it's the always strong person, the helper, the peacemaker, or the emotional caretaker, become so ingrained in our identities that we forget they are just roles, not who we truly are. These roles aren't chosen by us. They're placed upon us by others, and over time, we start to believe that these roles define our worth. But here's the thing, you are not your role. You are not the person who is constantly needed. You are not the fixer, the problem solver, or the one who sacrifices their well-being for others. Those roles may have served you in the past, but at some point they start to limit you. They start to define you in ways that aren't authentic. And it's in those moments when we feel suffocated by these expectations, overwhelmed by the pressure to perform, that we begin to lose sight of who we really are beneath the surface. Think about the roles you've adopted in your life. Have you become the strong one who never shows vulnerability? The people pleaser who sacrifices their own needs to make others happy? The caregiver who constantly puts others' emotional health ahead of your own? When you step into these roles, they can feel like a burden. Over time, you lose track of your true desires, your authentic needs, and your own sense of self-worth. You start to ask yourself, who am I really? Am I just the person who is always on, always available, always sacrificing for others? But the truth is, you don't have to be any of these roles. And the moment you start recognizing that these roles are not you, that's when real transformation can begin. It's about detaching from the performance you've been putting on for years and learning to live as yourself, not the version of you that others expect. Detaching from the roles that bind us is one of the most liberating things we can do. It's not about abandoning the people we love, but about learning that we can love them without losing ourselves. When you let go of the roles that others have assigned you, you make space to rediscover your true self. You realize that you don't need to be anyone's emotional crutch. You don't need to be the one who always sacrifices. You don't need to be the person who's always there, no matter the cost to your own well-being. The more you detach from these roles, the more you'll see that you're free to be who you truly are. You're free to choose your relationships based on mutual respect, not obligation. You're free to express your authentic self without fear of rejection or judgment. When you stop being defined by what others need from you, you create space for the life you want to live, one where you come first. Detaching from the roles you've been forced into is crucial because it allows you to break free from the cycle of people-pleasing and self-sacrifice. These roles have kept you in a constant state of exhaustion, making you feel like you have to perform, and show up even when it's hurting you. By releasing these roles, you begin the journey of healing. You start to realize that self-worth doesn't come from meeting everyone else's needs. It comes from learning to honor yourself, to set boundaries, and protect your energy. And in doing so, you start to build relationships that are mutual, where both sides contribute equally, where both people are seen, valued, and respected. Imagine saying no to someone who has always relied on you. Imagine not jumping in when there's a crisis or not being the one to pick up the pieces every time something falls apart. It's a radical shift, right? But it's also a necessary one. When you start saying no to the roles others have assigned to you, you begin to say yes to the life you were meant to live. You start reclaiming your energy and your sense of self. You're no longer defined by the roles others put on you. You are free to live as the authentic you. It's important to recognize that saying, "I'm done pretending," doesn't mean you're abandoning others. It means you're finally showing up for yourself. When you stop pretending to be the person people want you to be, you allow yourself to become the person you were always meant to be. And that's where true freedom lies, in the power to choose who you want to be without the weight of expectations holding you back. In the courage to be authentic, even if it means challenging the roles others have placed on you. In the strength to say, this isn't my role anymore. The moment you release the roles that have bound you for so long, you will feel the weight lift. You'll feel the freedom to be yourself, no performance, no pretense, no need to meet someone else's expectations. You are not a role to be played. You are a person to be seen. And once you step into the freedom of being your authentic self, you'll begin to attract the kind of relationships and experiences that honor you for who you truly are, not for what you can do for others. Have you ever tried setting boundaries and instantly felt guilty? You set a limit, you say no, and almost immediately you start questioning yourself. Did I do the right thing? What will they think of me? Am I being too harsh? These thoughts creep in and make you doubt your decision even when you know deep down it was the right one. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Guilt is a natural part of the healing process. When you start making changes, when you start prioritizing your own energy and needs, the systems that have benefited from your overgiving will react. And their reaction will often be to try to pull you back into the cycle. You'll hear things like, you've changed. You used to care more. You're being selfish now. But here's the thing. This isn't guilt. It's a defense mechanism both from you and the people around you. It's a symptom of breaking free from old patterns, a reminder that you're healing and stepping into a place of self-respect. Guilt has a sneaky way of making us feel like we've done something wrong when in reality we haven't. The truth is, guilt is a social construct. It's tied to the expectations that others have of you and the roles they've cast you in. When you step out of those roles, when you say no to requests that drain, guilt arises because you've disrupted the system. This system is built on your compliance. It thrives on your overgiving, your constant availability, and your willingness to sacrifice. But when you stop playing that part, when you start protecting your energy, guilt sets in because you're challenging the very dynamics that have kept you stuck. Guilt isn't a sign that you've done something wrong. It's a sign that you're breaking free. Here's the liberating truth. The more you listen to the guilt, the more you stay stuck. Guilt is designed to keep you in the same patterns, to keep you performing the same role. It's a subconscious way of protecting the old version of you, the version that was always available, always sacrificing, always giving without receiving. But growth, healing, and self-empowerment require change. And change is uncomfortable. Guilt often arises when you begin to question the old patterns and start to build new, healthier ones. But this is the very nature of growth. When you outgrow something, the discomfort is inevitable. Remember, guilt doesn't equal wrongdoing. It simply signals that you're stretching beyond what you've always known. You're setting boundaries, prioritizing your own well-being, and choosing to honor yourself over the needs of others. And that's a good thing. You're reclaiming your life, your energy, and your autonomy. The next time you feel guilt creeping in after setting a boundary, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, why do I feel guilty? Who benefits when I feel guilty? What's the truth here? You'll soon realize that the truth is that you are doing the right thing. You're choosing to protect your energy, to reclaim your life, and to start living on your own terms. Guilt doesn't last forever. Over time, as you continue to make decisions that honor your needs and set healthy boundaries, the guilt will lessen, and eventually you'll start feeling empowered instead of guilty. You'll realize that you can't be everything to everyone and still be whole. In this journey of healing, it's important to understand that guilt is not a reliable guide. It's a reaction, a reflex from the old patterns that have governed your life, but it is not a true measure of whether you are doing the right thing. The true guide is how you feel when you honor your boundaries, when you say no, when you take time for yourself. Does it feel peaceful? Does it feel right? That's how you know you're on the right path. Guilt will still come up. It's a natural part of the process. But the more you listen to your true feelings and trust in your need to protect your energy, the less power guilt will have over you. The more you practice, the less guilt you'll feel. Healing means giving yourself permission to say no without guilt. It means saying, I deserve to rest, to say no, to not overextend myself, and to honor my own needs. It means that your worth is not determined by how much you can give to others. Your worth is intrinsic, and it's not tied to your ability to sacrifice yourself for the sake of someone else's comfort. So every time guilt pops up, when you choose yourself, remind yourself you are healing, You are choosing you. You are reclaiming your power. It's time to face the reality your energy is your most precious resource, and reclaiming it is your birthright. For too long, you've been giving, performing, and sacrificing in the name of duty, love, or obligation. But now it's time to stop being the emotional ATM that everyone keeps withdrawing from without depositing anything back. Your energy isn't something to be exploited. It's sacred, a vital force that fuels your body, mind, and soul. And it's time you started treating it with the respect it deserves. Most people walk through life unaware of how much energy they are giving away. They are reactive, constantly responding to the demands of others, to the pressures of society, to the needs of their job or family. They're so used to being on all the time that they don't even realize they are running on empty. But what if you could change that? What if you could become aware of every time your energy is being drained and start taking conscious steps to protect it? Reclaiming your energy begins with awareness. You need to tune in and start asking yourself the difficult questions. Where am I giving my energy away without getting anything back? What situations leave me feeling drained instead of energized? Which people or environments pull me down rather than lifting me up? The more you start to observe these patterns, the more you'll realize that you have the power to change them. Once you are aware of where your energy is being siphoned off, you can start making choices that protect it instead of allowing others to continue depleting you. The power of saying no to protect your energy. Let's talk about the power of saying no. For many, saying no feels like an impossible task. We're afraid of disappointing others, of being labeled as selfish, or of creating conflict. But here's the truth. Saying no is one of the most empowering things you can do for yourself. When you say no, you are essentially declaring your worth. You're saying my energy matters. My well-being is important. Saying no doesn't mean you don't care about others. It means you care about yourself enough to preserve your energy for the things that truly align with your values and your purpose. Think about how often you've said yes when you didn't want to, just to avoid conflict or to please someone. Maybe you've stayed late at work even though you were exhausted. Maybe you've agreed to take on extra tasks even though it meant sacrificing your personal time. Maybe you've tolerated a relationship that was draining you because you were afraid of hurting the other person's feelings. Imagine what would happen if you started saying no to these energy-draining situations. What if you stopped overcommitting to things that weren't your responsibility? What if you started prioritizing your own needs first without guilt? What if you reclaimed your time and used it to nurture yourself rather than to keep others happy? Saying no doesn't just protect your energy, it reconnects you with your power. It gives you the space to decide what matters most in your life. And over time, it becomes easier. The more you protect your energy, the more you'll find that people respect your boundaries. And if they don't, it will become clear who truly values your presence. One of the hardest parts of this journey is letting go of the need for validation. For many, our worth has been tied to how much we give, how available we are, and how much we can do for others. But this external validation is fleeting. It's conditional, and it's based on meeting the needs of others rather than meeting our own. Real validation comes from within. It comes from honoring yourself, trusting your instincts, and being confident in your decisions. You don't need to be constantly available to prove your worth. Your worth is inherent, and it doesn't depend on whether others see it or not. As you reclaim your energy, you'll start to notice a shift in how you feel. You'll feel lighter. You'll feel more at peace. This peace isn't fleeting, it's sustainable. It comes from the quiet, knowing that you are honoring yourself and you are no longer playing the role of the eternal giver or performer. This shift will change how you engage with others. You'll stop feeling the need to constantly explain yourself, to justify your decisions, or to perform for approval. Instead, you'll simply be. You'll show up as the most authentic version of yourself, and the people who truly respect you will honor that. You'll be amazed at how much more fulfilling life becomes when you start giving from a place of abundance, not depletion. When you protect your energy, you make space for deeper connections, greater creativity, and a more peaceful existence. The ultimate takeaway is this: you are the guardian of your energy. No one else can control how much you give, how much you protect, or how much you keep for yourself. It's up to you to decide where your energy goes. It's time to stop allowing others to siphon your life force. It's time to stop operating on autopilot, giving to everyone and everything around you until you have nothing left. You have the power to choose what deserves your energy and what doesn't. We've come a long way on this journey, from recognizing the ways our energy has been drained, to understanding the power of setting boundaries, to learning how to protect and reclaim our life force. But now it's time for the most important part of the process, owning your energy and embracing your truth. This final shift isn't just about stopping the drain, it's about stepping into your power. It's about recognizing that your energy, your time, and your presence are priceless. You are not here to simply be consumed by the needs of others. You are here to live fully, to express yourself authentically, and to create a life that aligns with your deepest desires and values. The truth is, you don't need permission to protect your energy. You don't need to explain why you're choosing to take time for yourself. You don't need to justify your decision to set boundaries. Your energy is yours, and it's time you started treating it as the sacred resource it truly is. For so long, many of us have been living in survival mode, just getting through the day, putting out fires, trying to meet everyone else's needs. But survival is not the same as living. Survival is reactive. It's about getting by, not about thriving. Now it's time to shift from survival to thriving. Thriving is about creating. It's about choosing where your energy goes and ensuring that it's spent on the things that nourish you, not drain you. Thriving means living from a place of abundance, where you have enough energy for yourself and enough to share with others in a way that doesn't leave you empty. When you begin to own your energy, you take responsibility for what you allow into your life. You stop reacting to external demands and instead you start creating the life you want, one that honors your energy, your needs, and your soul. So now it's your turn. The most important thing you can do moving forward is to choose your path. You have the power to decide where your energy goes and who gets to access it. You don't have to keep sacrificing your peace for the sake of others. You don't have to continue being the person who bends over backward to please people who don't even appreciate the real you. You are not responsible for how others react when you set boundaries. You are not responsible for their discomfort when you say no. What you are responsible for is honoring yourself for choosing to protect your energy so that you can live a life that is authentic and aligned with who you truly are. The final truth is this: you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to be constantly available. You don't have to perform sacrifice or overextend yourself just to feel loved or needed. When you own your energy, you create space for the life you truly want, a life that is full of purpose, peace, and joy. And the most profound thing is this: when you protect your energy, you become a magnet for the things that truly nourish you. You attract the people, opportunities, and experiences that align with your highest self. It's time to stop leaking energy to things that don't matter and start investing in the things that bring you joy, fulfillment, and peace. From now on, you are the guardian of your energy. You have the power to choose who you give your time and attention to. You have the right to say no without guilt, to set boundaries without fear, and to prioritize yourself without explanation. Your energy is sacred, and when you protect it, you honor the true power within you. If you've made it this far, you are already on the path to reclaiming your life force. Keep going. Keep setting boundaries. Keep protecting your energy, and keep honoring yourself. And as you do, you will find that the world begins to shift in your favor. Remember, you are not here to serve others at the expense of yourself. You are here to live, to be fully present, fully alive, and fully you. Embrace your energy as the gift it is, and watch your life transform. You are worthy of all the peace, joy, and abundance that's waiting for you. As you move forward, let your energy be the compass that guides you. Don't let anyone take it from you without your consent. Guard your peace, honor your boundaries, and above all, choose yourself. The more you do, the more you'll see how truly powerful you are. Because in the end, your energy is your most precious asset, and you are the one who gets to decide how it's spent.